everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith of Nutrition Restored and nutritionrestored.com, the Nutrition Detective. And it's Friday afternoon here in Tucson, Arizona, and I just decided to do a little impromptu Facebook Live where I would answer some questions. I normally do this weekly we schedule it for an hour, but sometimes I normally talk an hour and a half, even up to 2 hours. It's a private Facebook video group. It is $50 a month, but that's where people can get the in-depth answers to their questions. How I treat certain things, how I perceive certain things, how I interpret certain things. Most of you who are familiar with me at all know that I'm not standard or normal in any of my interpretation. Everything needs context, and it's detective work. So it's not just everybody should do this or everybody should do this. I saw a guy on another Facebook group. He was saying, that Otto Warburg found that as long as your pH is above 7.35, no disease can survive. And I was like, there are definite diseases where when you have your pH too high, you get sick and you could die. So didn't understand how he was saying that his pH, if you just raise your pH enough. I think this guy said he was shooting for 8.2. Let me tell you what I've seen in the past about that. I've had people come to me who said they were doing this, the alkaline diet, and they were measuring their pH. They were eating super clean. And as their pH, both their saliva pH and their urine pH continued to go higher and higher, 7.7, 7.8, 7.9, they got sicker and sicker and sicker. So anyway, it was fun. I didn't spend too much time on this guy because he was saying he's out there growing African superfoods, and there's a 10,000-year medicinal history of this, and he was going to live to 256 years old. And I said, good luck with that, buddy. There is the gentleman named Seti who was a vegan advocate and lots of these herbs advocate, and he recently passed in his 80s. So I said, show me the 200-plus-year-old people who are doing what you're doing with the so-called African superfoods. You show me the 200-plus-year-old people and I'll buy in. But as far as I knew, none of the Blue Zones people or the longevity packets of that I've seen are doing African superfoods. So anyway, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot them on the comments. I'll take them as long as I don't get too into detail in terms of treatment stuff. I'm starting the 30-minute timer now. But the thing about the pH thing, let me just go into that for a second. For people who think that pH is everything. But this is what I said to the gentleman. I said, if pH was everything, if health was as simple as pH, baking soda would cure all disease. People could just take baking soda and it would cure all disease. Because baking soda, if you've ever taken it, it will raise your pH very quickly. Not your blood pH too much, because your body wants to keep your blood pH in a very tight range. But your urine pH and your saliva pH, you start taking baking soda and they will go up quick. And all your diseases don't magically disappear when they do that. So apparently there's disconnect. And we start looking into that, right? So, there just can't. Health is as simple as, eating the right foods, the right foods, getting sunlight, getting your extra movement, moving your body, getting outside, breathing clean air, drinking clean water. Is it that simple? Yes. Once you're sick, getting you out of sickness can be a little more complicated than simply raising your pH. And what if I had somebody come to me who's sick and their urine pH was like 7.8? What do we do there? Why are they sick if their pH is high. So anyway, it's just not as simple as that. But we have figured out a way in this country, especially in the Western world, to screw up pretty much everything we're doing. So Leah's asking, so one of the things I do, I am kind of, in terms of health practitioners, I am kind of the leader in terms of figuring out and exposing and fixing the vitamin A toxicity epidemic. So if you see people asking questions about the vitamin A detox here, that's what I'm talking about. That's available on the website, nutritionrestore.com/shop, and you can find it there. I also do individualized work with what I call nutritional restoration. So that's why I wanted to preface this question. Leah's asking, have I found that people on the detox then become more sensitive to foods higher in carotenoids or vitamin A? For instance, someone on the detox having symptoms when consuming too much celery or other foods that contain carotenoids. Okay. So carotenoids are the root. Let me just set the foundation here. There's people out on the internet saying that only retinol is vitamin A, only retinol, and that only animal retinol is the true vitamin A, and carotenoids are not vitamin A. Okay. It's cute that they say that. They're wrong on many facets. Animal foods contain mostly what are called retinyl esters. Retinyl esters. Retinol bound to an ester like palmitic acid or stearic acid. Those are the big ones that are in. The stearic acid is the one mostly found in the blood, and the palmitic acid one, palmitate, retinyl palmitate, are the ones mostly found in the liver. But they're all mixed around. I think there's like at least 7 or 8 different esters at my last count. So people will say that I saw somebody say this the other day, retinyl palmitate is bad for you, and retinol is the true vitamin A, and retinol can't be toxic. Okay. Your body converts retinol to retinyl esters and back and forth, whether it wants it floating around in the blood or whether it wants it floating around or sitting in your liver or in your tissues. The body puts them back and forth. It doesn't have any problem switching them around. Retinol is not what's found in animal foods mostly. I have several papers that say that retinyl esters are the main form found in foods. So people out there saying retinol is the main thing you're trying to get out of foods for vitamin A don't even understand that retinol is a small part of foods and retinyl ester is the main part of it. So let's back up. I don't want people eating any of them. If an animal has retinol in it or retinyl esters, that animal had to make the retinol or the retinyl esters from cutting apart carotenoids. So animals don't get to have retinol or retinol esters in them unless they ate carotenoids. And humans, we can also cut carotenoids into retinol and retinol esters, which then all of it supplement in your cosmetics, in your carrots, in whatever. I have the research showing that it all turns into retinoic acid. The same retinoic acids, exactly the same as are in Accutane and Retin-A. So for those of you listening and you have health problems and you're wondering, I wonder could they be related to vitamin A? Here's what I'm telling you. All the vitamin A you eat, carotenoids, retinoids, whatever, turns into retinoic acid. Go look up the side effects of Accutane and Retin-A, Retin-A. Isotretinoin and tretinoin. That's Accutane and then Retin-A. Look up your side effect. Look up the side effect list of those medications. If your problems are on those lists and you eat a lot of vitamin A, or you have in the past, or you've taken vitamin A supplements or cod liver, or you've eaten a lot of liver, or you've eaten a bunch of dairy, or you've eaten a ton of bacon, pork is full of vitamin A. Look at those side effects lists. And if you have some of the side effects of either Accutane or Retin-A, your body turns any vitamin A that you eat into those exact same retinoic acids. Anyone who says that they're different, The burden of proof is on them. I have an exact study showing eating vegetables raised the all-trans retinoic acid levels in the blood by 36%. All-trans retinoic acid is another name for tretinoin and Retin-A, same thing. Eating vegetables raised the level of Retin-A in people. This is the same stuff, folks. The burden of proof. If the scientists say the molecules are exactly the same, like if they analyze the urine for retinoic acids and they find all trans retinoic acid and they say this is this, are they going to sit there and somebody says, well, was it the natural all trans retinoic acid or was it the synthetic stuff from Retin-A? And they're saying, well, the person's not taking Retin-A and we're finding this retinoic acid in their urine. It's the same thing. So anyone who wants to say that these things are different, the burden of proof is upon those people to show that natural retinoic acids are okay and not toxic, and synthetic ones are, because the chemists say they're the same. I've been working on a presentation about this. People have died from beta carotene supplements. People have died from eating too much liver. I have the paper, the case study, a child died from eating too much liver paste. The mother poisoned the child with chicken liver paste over years. Liver vitamin A is just as toxic as anything else. Actually, I have a paper showing that liver raised retinoic acid levels more than supplements did. So anyway, back to Leah's question. Now that we set the foundation. So as people do the vitamin A detox, they slowly get better. This is not a quick solution. Anybody who sells you a quick solution isn't really selling you what's the big fix. So people start feeling better. When people start feeling better, it is a natural human tendency to take it for granted and not realize how much better you feel versus how crappy you maybe used to feel. So you have less of a tolerance of feeling bad. You also have lower levels of carotenoids and vitamin A, all these things floating around your system that make you feel bad. That's why you're feeling better. So then if somebody were to go and eat vitamin A foods and their system is cleaner, their body will start detoxing that vitamin A that night, the next morning, and they will feel bad. They will feel a detox cycle because they ate the poison, the vitamin A, the carotenoids, whatever it is, and then they're cleaning it out right away. And they got used to feeling good because they didn't have all that floating around in their system, and now they do. So we always have to look into the tolerance level. You know, people get used to things. We take things for granted. Humans take feeling good for granted. Everybody does. So if all of a sudden somebody was feeling good and then they eat something and they feel worse, like Leah's asking, do they become more sensitive to it? I don't think people become more sensitive to it. They become less tolerant of feeling bad because they're feeling better. And that's what we normally see on this. So that's the answer, Leah, is really, I don't think people become more sensitive to it. It's that they become less tolerant of not feeling good. And so to answer people's question where they go, but I thought carotenoids were good for you. And as we get people like Leah's asking, we get people off of carotenoids and vitamin A and retinoids and retinol. And then they eat them again. And she's wondering, is it normal to feel worse on that? Well, if she needed them, shouldn't she feel better? Wouldn't that make sense? If she was deficient in them and she ate them, she would feel better. And she doesn't. So anyway. What's going on? Oh, did I set that for 30 hours? I set my timer for 30 hours. Whoops. Guess I wasn't paying attention when I set that. So, okay. Blair, is high cholesterol a mechanism to protect against the vitamin A? I don't know about that. What I do know is if people have high cholesterol problems, high cholesterol in general is often associated with a low thyroid state, a hypothyroid state. Vitamin A affects the liver. if you were to go on my blog forum, so if you went to nutritionrestored.com/blog-forum, and then another slash, and you were to use a little search box there and you search for thyroid, you'd find tons of stuff of mine on vitamin A directly suppressing the thyroid. Then we have all the research on vitamin A negatively impacting the liver. That's the main place that vitamin A negatively affects. Okay, so how do those things connect? Well, if vitamin A negatively affects the thyroid and decreases thyroid production, and we know that decreased thyroid production is generally associated with elevated cholesterol, we have that connection. Then we have, if the liver is damaged by vitamin A, which it is, the liver can just take a beating for years. So it doesn't always show the problems right away. Our liver, the liver is your trooper. The liver is the thing you can depend on. So by the time, if your liver is trashed, it's been taking a hit generally for many, many years. But the liver, what the liver does is the liver converts T4, the less active thyroid hormone, into T3, the more active thyroid hormone. If the liver is damaged, it can't do that as well, right? If you're not making as much T3 as you should, you're going to show lower thyroid function, lower effective thyroid function, and lower T3, which not all doctors measure. Most doctors are only measuring TSH and maybe T4. But there's plenty of people out there with normal TSH, normal T3, and normal T4 who still have all sorts of hypothyroid symptoms. That's what I call thyroid resistance. And that's a whole separate problem. We fix it, but it's a whole separate problem. And it's not fixed by taking mega doses of iodine. I just talked to somebody yesterday who said they worked with one of the biggest iodine doctors known. And these were her words to me. He almost killed me with that iodine. High dose iodine is not the answer. If you feel better on it, it's great, but it's not the cause. I have studies showing that vitamin A directly affects iodine metabolism in the body, not in a good way. So anyway, we have those connections. I don't know if high cholesterol is a protective measure against vitamin A. I've heard Grant Genereux, if you want to check out his blog, he wrote the original books that got me, the free ebooks that got me interested in this. It's Genereux, GENEREUX.blog. Genereux, so there's two G's, GGENEREUX.blog. If you want to check out his stuff, I mean, he's the one who got me interested. I'm the one who got into how do we fix this? How do we treat it? How do we help people get better from it faster? Because Grant's road was long. When it's just the vitamin A detox, it's a long road. When we fix the nutrients, we tend to see improvements faster because vitamin A, I'm going to do a YouTube sometime here about all the nutrients that vitamin A depletes. So as an example, I have 4 separate case study assembly papers where isotretinoin, aka Accutane, aka 13-cis-retinoic acid, which is found in normal human urine if you are eating vitamin A. If you are eating any form of vitamin A from vegetables, from fruits, from liver, from dairy, whatever, you are peeing out Accutane. It's in the research. So Accutane has been shown in multiple case studies to directly deplete B12 and folate. What are the MTHFR people freaking out about these days? Is it B12 and folate? What if we had an epidemic of vitamin A toxicity causing people to have too much Accutane in their system, causing them to deplete their B12 and folate because their body makes Accutane from any form of vitamin A you eat? Okay. So then do you really need B12 and folate supplements? Or is it really you just need to fix the vitamin A toxicity? So in terms of high cholesterol is some sort of okay, I'll just talk about high cholesterol, how I think about it. High cholesterol, that's what I was saying about Grant. Grant has said, I believe this is what he said, that cholesterol is one of the ways that the body actually is trying to detox excess vitamin A out of the system. I don't know if that's true. I haven't examined that rabbit hole yet. What I know is I assume the body is wise and intelligent. So if cholesterol goes up in a state of vitamin A toxicity, well, it's either an effect of the vitamin A on the body or it is some sort of defensive mechanism that the body's doing. I don't know which one, but we see it correct. I actually need to go do a cholesterol panel on myself to see, because I haven't done one in a long time, because cholesterol, high or excessively low, is a symptom of something else. High cholesterol is not a cause of anything. But what about the plaque in the arteries? Go and really look into the plaque in the arteries, and it's calcium. It is calcium that is really behind the plaque in the arteries. That's how they can see it on like contrast. They put contrast in there and they can see when you go and you get a coronary calcium score, when they do the ultrasound on your neck to see how calcified the artery is there, you know what they call it? They call it a coronary calcium score. They don't call it a coronary cholesterol score. They call it a coronary calcium score. Calcium deposits. Wait, what raises calcium in the blood? Vitamin D supplements, don't take them. Vitamin A toxicity. Go look up vitamin A toxicity and hypercalcemia. It's right there. So if people had vitamin D supplements, they were taking calcium supplements, they were drinking a ton of dairy, and they had vitamin A toxicity, do you think they'd have too much calcium in their system, clogging up the system? Yeah. Can we fix it? Yeah. Does it take some work? Yeah. Okay. Larry, am I familiar with mast cell activation syndrome, and do I think it's caused by vitamin A toxicity? Yes. That would be the first thing I would look at. Yes. Histamine problems are related to vitamin A problems. You can go and type in histamine and retinoic and you'll find stuff. The thing to always remember about vitamin A when you look at studies is if they're looking at a petri dish, vitamin A, when they add it, or retinoic acid, when they add it to the petri dish, will often show positive results. But then if you look at vitamin A toxicity studies in real people or in real animals, and they're long enough, then you see problems. The same stuff that was supposed to help the cellular situation in the petri dish, long-term in real people causes problems. I call this the duration paradox. This is why when some people, they're like I had as an example, I would never give anybody cod liver oil. I wouldn't wish cod liver oil on anyone. I have a whole big article on the blog forum about cod liver oil and all the studies on it you've never heard about in terms of how toxic it is. And Weston Price's quotes about how if young children took it for too long, the word he used was injurious, causing injuries. It was hurting children, and he knew this. But I gave a kid some cod liver oil back in, this was probably 2008. Kid had some acne, and I said, well, you should take some cod liver oil for it. Kid started taking cod liver oil. His acne got a bit better. That can happen. Over time, that same dose of cod liver oil will eventually cause the acne to get worse and worse and worse until nothing, unless he took Accutane, which is an even stronger form of vitamin A, will suppress it. The very problems that a toxin is showing during a detox, if the body's trying to get rid of it, like acne, if the body's dumping out vitamin A through the skin and it's causing problems as it's coming out, like acne, if you put enough of the poison back in the system, the detox stops. You shut down the detox. Anybody would know, anybody who's ever been into any kind of actual legitimate scientific detoxification, if you know that it's coming out, if somebody worked in vinyl, like I remember one of my teachers in school talking about, guy worked in vinyl, he was doing the detox, he stopped working in vinyl. I mean, he was a vinyl refinisher and all that stuff. When he was detoxing the vinyl, you could smell it coming out of him. It was coming out of his skin. Said the guy smelled like vinyl all day long. But if he would have gone back to work in the vinyl field, it would have all shut down. It doesn't, you can't, your body will stop detoxing if it can't control the intox. If it can't stop, if you don't stop the intox, the body will stop the detox because you don't want to have too much of it in your bloodstream. And that's how it gets in and that's how it gets out. So, but yeah, histamine, go and search histamine and retinoic. Whenever you find problems, whenever you find an issue in the literature connected with retinoic acid or vitamin A, even if they're saying it's deficiency, it's actually toxicity. Grant, oh, this is cool. You guys may like this. Grant and I are working on getting, he's mainly working on it because he's funding this part, but I'm helping with some of the thought process. He's working on testing the casein protein that they call vitamin free, which is actually yellow. So here's the interesting thing. Casein is normally white. Like think of cottage cheese. That's just chunks of casein. Okay? It's white, right? So the vitamin free casein that they feed rats and they use in vitamin A deficiency studies is yellow. How did it turn from white to yellow? You know what color retinoic acid is? It's yellow. You want to know what they say about the casein? They say it's retinol free. Didn't test it for retinoic acid, did you guys? No, they did not. So we are looking for retinoic acid. And if there is retinoic acid in this casein that they've been studying for 100 years saying there's no vitamin A in it, but there really is vitamin A in it. And they gave these rats lard, which also contains vitamin A. And then people are wondering, why are the symptoms of vitamin A toxicity and vitamin A deficiency so similar? It's because there never was deficiency. They've been poisoning these rats with vitamin A for 100 years. And there's other nutrient deficiencies that show up with the same symptoms as vitamin A. The ones they accuse vitamin A deficiency of being, like zinc and taurine. So, nutrition data said hardly any vitamin A in pork. It's in the pork fat. Look up lard factor vitamin A. So, and go look up lard factor. They sell it in chemistry things. And then type in lard factor vitamin A and they'll say, oh, later lard factor was discovered to be vitamin A. Here's the important thing, folks. This is going to be the problem forever. Nobody analyzes food for retinoic acids. Retinoic acids are the most damaging forms of vitamin A. If they don't look for it, they're not going to like analyze for retinol and say, oh, we didn't find any retinol. Okay. They don't analyze for retinol esters either. They analyze for retinol. Retinol esters are what you would find in tissues more. So they don't analyze for retinol esters and they don't analyze for retinoic acid. They're missing the storage form and the most damaging form. This is something we have to just figure out and know. This is why I tell people, don't just go searching on the internet for vitamin A content because you're going to think that you're doing something wonderful and you're going to be getting, because, okay, so here's an example. Beta carotene. One beta carotene turns into 2 retinols. One beta carotene can turn into 2 retinols. So they measure, they estimate vitamin A activity from beta carotene by assuming that, you know, some of it's broken down into 2 retinols and then it has that much vitamin A activity. Lutein is a carotenoid that has all sorts of problems. That's what, if you look up Sarah's diet was based on, was avoiding lutein, and they were seeing positive effects on autism back in the early 2000s with having kids avoid lutein. Lutein doesn't convert into retinol. It doesn't break down into retinol. It's just a carotenoid. It can't be split into retinol. So science goes, well, it doesn't have any vitamin A activity. It's still toxic. So this is why when people start going and searching on their own, it doesn't always show up. This is the detective work I do. This is why they call me the nutrition detective, is we have to figure these things out. What's good, what's bad, what's okay, what's not. I'm just looking for more questions here. Oh, there's a whole host of other pork. Yeah, pork is... Okay, you know, I told you vitamin A problems. Vitamin A affects the liver. There is research showing a direct correlation between a country's pork consumption and liver cancer. I have the links are on, if you were to go on the blog forum, nutritionrestored.com/blog-forum/search pork, you will find the big article I did on pork. There's a reason why people have been avoiding pork for millennia. My goodness, pork is just so. Don't eat pork. Pork and shellfish. How long do I recommend breastfeeding babies or children for? Wow, that's an interesting question. Wasn't expecting one like that. I don't have. My wife, I think she went for less than 2 years on our first one and less than 2 years on the second one. I mean, I think, okay. There's people out there who would love to turn comments like this into weird things, but I think as long as you can breastfeed the kid that's practical and, you know, that you can live with, you know. I mean, you know, honestly, if I were to see a kid that was like 6 years old or 8 years old and still nursing, I'd be like, that's kind of interesting. Is there something necessarily wrong with it? I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say there's something necessarily that great about it. It'd be pretty strange in public. I would feel strange if my wife were doing that in public with like a 8-year-old. Be like, maybe we should stop. But I'm not going to judge that somebody can't do that. I think shooting for 2 years would be a great goal for people to have. At least a year, minimum of a year. Shoot for 2 years. So here's an example of how I think I affected my son's health with vitamin A. My wife was getting towards the end. My wife always had issues with production. She was getting towards, you know, the later end of nursing, and she was, well, what we started doing was cutting the breast milk with half goat milk. I thought I was doing something good because goat milk's got the smaller fat molecules, easier to digest proteins. That's what everybody says. Well, goat milk has more vitamin A in it than cow milk does. Oops. So they don't add vitamin A to goat milk. They don't need to. So anyway, that's how. But we extended a bit longer, and then he started loving the goat milk. So then we just started giving him bottles of goat milk. I only learn about these things, folks, because I've done them. I just pay lots of attention along the way. So, but I don't have a distinct answer for that. I'm a dad who's going through I got my 2 kids and we're going through life. And so I'm learning as I go. I'm not a pediatrician. Not that I think pediatricians are necessarily, pediatricians are good for what they're good for. I'll leave it at that. Leah was commenting to Larry about the mast cell activation syndrome. She was saying, Larry, I get histamine type reactions when I eat too much vitamin A, totally related. I used to have seasonal allergies. I don't have them anymore. I still live in the same place. I still go through the same pollen cycles. I don't have seasonal allergies anymore, and I don't take anything for them. My son, I'm not making any claims with what I'm about to say. My son has an anaphylactic allergy to walnuts, pecans, and hazelnuts. Walnuts and pecans actually share the same antigen, is what I was told by our allergist, who I really like. But he carries around an EpiPen, you know. So we went in, so she says, the allergist says, she works on research for like oral immunotherapy for fixing allergies. And she actually said in one of our earlier visits that she has never seen a child outgrow nut allergies. Okay, that was her statement. Okay, cool. So I've been working with my son on his nutrition and the vitamin A detox, and I am not making any claims with what I'm about to say. I got him a blood test, an IgE blood test on nuts, maybe a year ago. He didn't come up with any reaction to hazelnuts, one of his nuts. Okay. Actually, no, he didn't come up with hazelnuts or pecans on the blood test. Still came up with walnuts. Okay. So we went to the allergist this year, and she did we actually asked her if she wanted to do the scratch test, the skin test. She did it. He did not come up positive for hazelnuts on that test. So now my wife was going, how are we sure? Can we be sure on this? And the allergist was saying it'd be really strange to get both the blood and skin, the scratch test, to not show up. My wife has a pack, she hasn't done it yet. She has a packet of Nutella sitting on the table because the allergist was like, you can try it. You can do a test. Blood test says he's okay. Skin's test says he's okay. So now my son apparently may have outgrown. There are no accidents. There are no coincidences. So he may have coincidentally outgrown his hazelnut allergy. And what am I doing to make this happen? Am I doing homeopathics? Am I doing OIT or SLIT, SLIT? I'm not doing any of that. He's on the vitamin A detox. Gets his magnesium lotion, he's a good eater. He used to have sensory processing issues, and I fully consider those to be a thing of the past. When he was young, probably around the goat milk drinking days, he used to actually kind of like have what I thought was an absence seizure. He would sometimes just stare at you and zone, and like, you're like, whoa, where are you? And he wouldn't say anything. And then he'd kind of snap back into it, and okay, what? And we used to actually put a helmet on him, because when those would happen when he was standing up, he would actually just fall over. So we used to have a soft helmet on him. He doesn't have that anymore. He's on the climbing team. Oh yeah, running the climbing team. He used to have he was diagnosed by occupational therapy as having weak grip and core muscle dysfunction. Yeah, he's on the climbing team now. He's on an indoor climbing team. So apparently these things can be fixed. I'm not going to make any claims as to what did it. I'll tell you what he's doing. He's doing the vitamin A detox. So, do I think histamine and allergies are absolutely related to vitamin A? Yes. I'm technically over a half hour right now. Rose Lee Jackson, I have an autoimmune liver condition, but also hair loss. I truly believe it's vitamin A, but why do some people seem to be okay? The problems show up in different areas. My dad, I have studies showing increased serum retinol, higher blood vitamin A, more prostate cancer risk. Okay. My dad died of prostate cancer. I was getting urinary symptoms from prostate stuff in my mid-20s while I was in naturopathic medical school. Nothing anybody did at that school helped me. I was going to the clinic. I was reading. I was trying stuff. Nothing helped me. Genetically, because of the different things that people eat, because there's different carotenoids, we store them differently. We eat different fatty acids that will do, different retinyl esters. Basically, different people's weak link to vitamin A will show up different in their own places. My genetics, my family, the men, prostate. Those are what my dad and I both had. I don't have any of those urinary issues anymore. My dad had horrible seasonal allergies. I don't have any seasonal allergies anymore. So some people might look perfectly healthy on the outside, and yet there's those people who they just all of a sudden die of a heart attack. But they were so healthy. Maybe it only affected their heart. I have a specific study showing that vitamin A toxicity increases the calcification of the aortic valve. What if that's all that happened in somebody? Okay, so don't expect, go look at the side effects of Accutane, isotretinoin, and Retin-A, tretinoin, because those compounds are made in your body from vitamin A. The list of side effects for something that's supposed to be a vitamin, believe me, retinoic acids are what science says are the biologically, let me get my quote fingers, biologically active forms of vitamin A. Poisons are biologically active. Neurotoxins are biologically active. Biologically active just means it does something biologically. Okay? So your body makes Accutane and Retin-A. Go look at the side effect lists of isotretinoin and tretinoin. It is probably some of the longest side effect lists, when you get the right pages, the longest side effect lists you will ever see. Not everybody gets all of them. We might only get one. The longer they get toxic, the longer they are toxic, the more things will show up. First week link breaks, second week link breaks, third week link breaks. What's your order? I don't know. Why do some people seem to be okay? The people who were like, oh, they were so healthy, and then they just died of a heart attack. The wrestling coach at my high school had that happen to him. He was out jogging and just dead. You know? So not everybody's going to show it in the same way. So Derek, you're friends with several real Cherokee medicine people. They do not eat pork or shellfish. Good choice. They teach their people not to eat pork or shellfish. These items are taboo and are against the original religion of their people. They also know the scientific reasons why to avoid those foods. I mean, I always go by the black box. If the black box, if people, what's the highest source of food poisoning? It's generally shellfish. Pork has a reputation, I mean, that liver cancer connection to pork. Pork has all sorts of pathogens in it. You know, it's just, there's too many things. When you start seeing, when foods have to be prepared in very, very specific ways, multiple methods of preparing them so that they're not toxic, maybe you shouldn't eat them. The stuff that's in our oceans right now and lakes, whether or not eating fish or shellfish was thought to be healthy 100 years ago, it's a disaster today. Rocket fuel, benzodiazepines, cocaine, like glyphosate, it's all in the water. I think they were just figuring out that I think it's coming out, an airport was dumping all the planes' raw sewage in the bay. And now they're wondering why they have these giant like algae blooms. It's, fish and shellfish in the water breathe all that in. They are marinating in whatever toxins are there. And then people go, well, I eat mine from a clean part of the ocean. It's all connected. Which ocean doesn't connect to all the other oceans? They're all connected. So eventually they're all going to be toxic, or at least partially toxic. Some are going to be more than others, but they're all going to get it eventually. So people go, well, the ocean's so big it'll dilute it. Apparently what's in the fish disagrees with your assessment, sir. So yeah, Derek, you were talking about the Old Testament laws. Yes, the laws of Leviticus. Hi, Lois. So Rose, you were asking, all these people having a problem with gluten, is that any way related to vitamin A? Okay, couple things connecting that. Stephanie Seneff, in one of her papers on glyphosate's connections to celiac disease, was talking, well, one of the things that glyphosate does is glyphosate slows down the cytochromes in the liver that specifically break down retinol, or actually, I'm sorry, that break down retinoic acid into products to get rid of it. Retinoic acid being the most toxic one. So retinoic acid is a group. That's why there's 13-cis retinoic acid, also known as Accutane, all trans retinoic acid, also known as Retin-A. There's all sorts of retinoic acids. But the entry to the liver is the cytochromes in terms of the liver detoxing things. Glyphosate specifically blocks the breakdown of vitamin A. at several cytochromes. Okay, so I believe, and I have an article written on the website if you wanted to read, Google or search, do the search box on the blog forum for autoimmune. You can find my articles. Autoimmunity is a foundation of vitamin A toxicity with other things layered on top of it. So Alzheimer's, foundation of vitamin A toxicity with other, especially aluminum toxicity layered on top of it. Many of these diseases are at the foundation. The thing that is causing the long-term problems is that established vitamin A toxicity. We store vitamin A in our tissues. That's why it can stick around so long. So anyway, all the non-organic grains in this country are sprayed, doused by the farmers in glyphosate after they are harvested or pre-harvest. It might be pre-harvest. They do it while they're out in the fields. They dry it out. They are using the glyphosate not as a weed killer. They are using it as a desiccant to dry it out. So it's easier for them to harvest and easier on their machines. Poisonous to us, easier on their machines. Isn't that nice of them? If you're a farmer who's listening to this and you use glyphosate on your crops, please stop. Stop killing all of humanity. Or at least US. So anyway, glyphosate slows the breakdown of vitamin A at the liver. Therefore, you build up vitamin A. Vitamin A is related to autoimmunity. Okay. Most people, their main grain is gluten, is wheat. So therefore, some people start noticing that their problems with wheat may actually just be a reaction to the glyphosate. Does that make sense? So, or if people who they're like, well, I'm celiac and I went paleo and so I don't eat any grains anymore and I feel great. Well, what they really did was they just cut out a crap load of their glyphosate exposure. And they're feeling better. Are they all better? Not always. Because then they get into the sweet potatoes full of carotenoids and the peppers full of carotenoids and the tomatoes full of carotenoids and the carrots full of carotenoids. Oh, and eating liver if they're really into it. So yeah, celiac is, for some people, a gluten problem. I mean, celiac is autoimmunity to gluten. We've messed with wheat. There's the glyphosate problem. Autoimmunity is vitamin A. So it's a big old mess of stuff. If people feel better not eating gluten at all, then go right ahead. I'm finding that as we have people on the vitamin A detox program and they've done it long enough, even if they were, having problems with gluten before, celiac or not, oftentimes they start noticing that they tolerate organic wheat products. Has to be organic so you avoid the glyphosate problem. So anyway, Jillian, you were saying you just realized you used to have those staring spells, which you thought was ADHD related. I mean, I can't say that you had the same thing, but my boy had them and his are gone now. So that's all I can say. Someone in your family had their incontinence issue disappear within 2 weeks of the detox diet. Okay, oh man, I got to find this paper. Okay, so I'm looking for, there it is. Okay, so remember, isotretinoin, where'd it go? I just had it. Isotretinoin, pelvic, fertile, PubMed. Okay, so Leah was saying she saw somebody's incontinence go away within 2 weeks of avoiding vitamin A. Okay. So I'm going to cut and paste this into the comments here. There's all sorts of incontinence issues these days, right? Happening in women younger and younger and younger. Huh. Maybe it's something nutritional. Maybe it's a massive poisoning of humanity. Let's go look at this study of this title, or the title of this study. Remember, isotretinoin is 13-cis-retinoic acid, and any carotenoids or retinoids or retinol or retinol palmitate you eat will turn into 13-cis-retinoic acid, which is also called Accutane or isotretinoin. Here's the title of the study. Isotretinoin-induced acute severe myopathy involving pelvic girdle muscles, a case report. Well, it's a case study. Accutane, isotretinoin, 13-cis-retinoic acid, caused severe myopathy of the pelvic girdle muscles. Do you think that would cause incontinence if your muscles won't hold together, hold your pee in? It's right there. I believe that all these breathing problems that people are seeing are vitamin A toxicity. I believe all this incontinence and pelvic muscle stuff is vitamin A toxicity. Here's the problem. I think that people, when they get the toxicity, they get the problem. So if your muscles forget how to work and you get rid of the vitamin A toxicity, you're going to have to teach them how to work again. You're going to have to get some therapy. It may go away on its own, but if it doesn't go away on its own, you may have to actually do some focused work to retrain it. It's like kids have to learn how to walk. They don't just walk, right? Once they learn how to walk, they know how to walk. Well, let's say somebody gets old and they have a stroke and they forget how to walk. They have to learn how to walk again. So if you learned how to hold your pee and you get vitamin A toxic and those muscles forget how to hold your pee, once you're not vitamin A toxic anymore, just like the stroke person had to learn how to walk again, you may have to do some focused work to get that to function again if it's not functioning. It's just the nature of, you got to reinstall the software. Original Strength is great for this stuff. Originalstrength.net. That's one of my favorite exercise stuff out there. But like my boy, weak hand muscles, weak core muscles. We started climbing in the summertime and he was strengthening his hands because he was using them. And now he's on the climbing team and he's doing a great job. So anyway, yeah, I think if you ladies out there have incontinence issues, pelvic girdle muscle issues, and you've been going to the therapist and it's not getting better, I just gave you a potential reason and a way to fix it. So Derek, a dermatologist gave you Accutane when you were 15 for acne. Thankfully, you only used it for about a week. Didn't help with the acne in that short amount of time, and I was in the sun too much, so I was told to get off of it. Let's talk about photosensitivity then. Photosensitivity, excessive sensitivity to the sun, an overreaction of your skin to the sun. Are any of you guys going out and getting sunburned very easily nowadays? Easier than it used to be? Or you're wondering why you started eating really clean and eating lots of, you started eating the rainbow, or you started eating liver, or lots of dairy, or cod liver oil, or retinol in your skin cream, or whatever. And now all of a sudden this summer, you're getting burned so badly. Well, it is a well-known issue. Here's some examples. Accutane and Retin-A. Recommended on the drug. Don't get too much sun exposure with this or you will severely burn, because vitamin A is a photosensitizing agent. It makes you more sensitive to the sunlight. Okay. Birth control pills block the breakdown of vitamin A. Birth control pills, they also tell you to watch out for getting too much sun. Maybe it's the same problem. So what we're seeing with the vitamin A detox, I have a post on Facebook back a ways, maybe a week or two, where I was talking about heat tolerance. What people are seeing is in these hot times, these record heat waves, that they're feeling less sensitive to the heat. They're not getting messed up by the heat affecting them as much. And also lots of them commented that they're not burning from the sun like they used to. These are all vitamin A detox things. We get the vitamin A out, the heat tolerance gets better, the sun tolerance gets better. All these things that we were taught are vitamin A toxicity. They're all linked. So, Rose, you took cod liver oil years ago. and broke out with acne for the first time in your life all across your forehead. You were vitamin A toxic back then. Your doctor told you it was because of your fringe. I don't know what the fringe means there, but I mean, unless you mean your hair, like rubbing you there. I don't, anyway. No, it wasn't. It was the cod liver oil. So, Rebecca, if you have to choose out of organic brown rice products or non-organic white rice products, what's the preference? I would go with the organic. Even if it's brown rice, I would go with organic. Lindy, what results have I seen with floaters and macular degeneration? I have seen my floaters only show up now if I feel like I'm having some sort of detox cycle, which are very small for me now. Now, if I see a floater, I'm like, oh, wait, there it is. And then it goes away for weeks. It's not just that I'm not seeing it. It's that I used to see them all the time. I used to be able to look and move my eyes and see them. They don't show up anymore. I didn't change anything. Floaters, macular degeneration. I don't know if I have specific testimonials to that. You might want to search macular degeneration on the blog forum. I did have one issue with my mom, I believe, well, I know she was vitamin A toxic. Oh, and the older people get, the longer you've been on this earth to accumulate vitamin A, the more you're going to have in your system, so the longer the detox is going to take. So 2 nutrients that if they are deficient, I'm not saying for anybody to take anything right here. 2 nutrients that if they are deficient will allow for vitamin A to damage the eyes more: zinc, taurine. My mom was having problems with her eye. She was getting I don't remember what the exact problem was, but she was actually getting injections. The eye doctor was injecting into her eye. I mean, I knew what the problem was at one time, because I went home and I was like, I wonder, this was before I even knew about the vitamin A stuff, I wonder if taurine would fix that. Or I started researching and I saw taurine with it, and I started looking into the taurine. I was like, research on taurine. They were actually there were studies where they injected taurine into the eye and they got good results. So I thought, let me put my mom on some taurine. I put her on some magnesium potassium taurate. So it's magnesium bound to taurine and potassium bound to taurine. I had her take that. She went back to the doctor next time and he said, well, I don't think we need to inject your eye anymore. He still wanted to, but he was like, it's not as bad as it was. I don't think we need to do it if you don't want to do it. I was like, don't do it, Mom. I went with her to the doctor. I was like, don't do it. So she was on it, and then after a while she stopped. Because I told her, I'm like, you're probably good on that. You could probably stop. This was before the vitamin A thing too. And then as we're doing the vitamin A detox over months, she says, I'm starting to feel like this issue again with my eye. I was thinking about it, and then I remembered. I was like, wait, I took her off the taurine. Put her back on the taurine, magnesium taurate specifically. 2 days, gone. This is the detective work I do. This is what I do. So, eye problems. Taurine, there is no good test for taurine. People will be like, oh, you could do a blood amino acids test and you could do a urine amino acids test. And I'm like, eh. First, if you don't eat meat, you're not going to have any taurine, because there is no taurine. People, on the internet, they say taurine's found in animal products. It's not in dairy. It's not in eggs. Will state that, but then you go and you look in the science and they're like, nope, no taurine in eggs or dairy, no taurine in collagen. So it's in meat. Taurine is in meat. And if you don't eat meat, you're not going to get any taurine. And I've been experimenting with taurine in these early phases with some of the people I work with. Some people notice something, some don't. Some people don't feel great on it, so I say don't take it. Very simple, right? Felt a little weird on the taurine. Don't take it. Not for you yet. Maybe you already get enough. Maybe your body doesn't like that. But zinc, oh boy. Few people hear me mention zinc and you start going out willy-nilly supplementing. Here's what I'm going to tell you about how I feel about zinc supplements. I tell people in my consults, your recommendation today is good for up to 6 months. If you 6 months and we have not retested, you are to stop the zinc supplement. Because I don't need people driving themselves into copper deficiency by taking a zinc supplement too long. So we test, we don't guess, then we address, that's our saying, and then you don't take these things forever until we know what we got to see the situation. We got to update it. This is scientific nutrition. This is clinical nutrition. Clinical nutrition is treating disease with nutrition. This is what we're doing. We're not guessing. We're not reading the latest blog post by somebody who shouldn't be writing about nutrition because they heard about stuff from another website. We're not talking about nutrition advice from a guy who doesn't have a clinic telling everybody what they should eat that includes lots of Mexican Cokes, okay? No. And that carrot salad is going to fix all your problems. No. Okay, Rebecca, any thoughts on early teeth development in babies? No. We have a B-year-old, I don't know, I think you had a mistype there. We have a B-year-old with most teeth already. Any vitamin A connection, negative or positive? No. She seemed onto low. Seemed onto low bit A. I assume you mean vitamin A. Though we are no longer strict. I don't know that sentence, but I don't know the timeline of tooth development in children. My boy seemed to lose his teeth a little later than normal, but he was still within normal. So that's the only thing I really have. We do have people with children's teeth situations improving on it. So that's what I got. 1 year old. Okay. Yeah. 1 year old. And weaned. Got it. She was weaned onto low vitamin A, though we are no longer strict. Well, so here's the problem with, this is going to be the last question because I'm at an hour. I meant to do a half hour and I'm at an hour because I talk too much. But anyway, if you guys like what I've been going over, I have a private, like I said, I have a private Facebook video group where each week I schedule it for an hour. I usually talk for an hour and a half at least, and then I've been going over lately because I like answering people's questions. And I put references just like that isotretinoin and pelvic girdle myopathy. You need to know, you guys need to know, you go out there and you search for any of the side effects of Accutane or Retin-A. Oh, one of the side effects is death. Yeah, a study on Retin-A in veterans. How bad is this? A study where they gave veterans Retin-A hoping they would prevent skin cancer had to be stopped because too many of them were dying. This is no joke. 3, count them, 1, 2, 3 studies on carotenoid, beta-carotene supplements. Beta-carotene, right? Beta-carotene's, everybody's like, you can't get too much beta-carotene. It's totally safe. Your body decides how much of it turns into vitamin A in the liver and all that stuff. First of all, that's BS. Your skin can convert beta-carotene into retinol and retinyl esters. I have the research. 3 studies on beta-carotene supplements have been stopped because too many people were dying early. I'm telling you that carotenoids turn into retinoic acids. Carotenoids, beta-carotene turns into retinoic acids. Retin-A study on it was stopped early because it was killing too many people. Retinoic acids kill people, and you can get them from, oh wait, didn't I mention the 2-year-old eating liver paste and dying? Wait, we got liver paste killing a child. We got Retin-A killing veterans. We got 3 studies on beta-carotene stopped because too many people were dying. 1974, there was a scientist, they called him a scientist, who killed himself by drinking a gallon of carrot juice a day and taking mega dose vitamin A supplements, dead in 10 days. Killed himself in 10 days. New York Times. They said he was bright yellow when they found the body. If you have health problems, look at the Accutane and the Retin-A side effect lists. If you find your problems on those lists, guaranteed it's probably from, well, not guaranteed, but it's very likely from vitamin A toxicity. Can people still get, like, let's say somebody's got mercury toxicity. Can that be their main problem? Sure. You layer vitamin A toxicity on top of mercury toxicity, you got a world of hurt now. So that's what I got for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If any of you want to find me on the internet, I have a YouTube channel under Nutrition Restored. My website is nutritionrestored.com. If you want to look into working with me via packages, like where we do individual work, or if you want to look into buying the vitamin A and detox program itself, that's nutritionrestored.com/shop. I'm going to be working on doing more YouTube videos. I want to do one that kind of explains a lot of the stuff I went over today. And I hope you all had fun. Have a great weekend. Signing off. I will talk to you all later. Bye.